What is going on here? Who is this? Why is there a child in my house?
In my room. Please, I can explain.
Daniel pushed open the door to his bedroom, loosening his tie as he stepped inside. Then he froze. A little girl was sleeping in his bed. His maid, Rose, was kneeling beside the bed, her hand resting gently on the child's forehead as if checking for fever. For a moment, Daniel couldn't even breathe. Who was the child? And why was she in his bed? "What is going on here?" he demanded. Rose jumped to her feet, tears already filling her eyes. "Sir, please. I can explain." What Daniel discovered next would change all three of their lives forever. Sit tight. Let me tell you a shocking story. Before we continue, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is in your country. Now, let's get into the story. The Lego sun had barely climbed above the horizon when Rose Adeyemi was already on her knees, scrubbing the white marble floors of the grand entrance hall of Daniel Okafor's mansion. The house was enormous. 5 bedrooms, 3 sitting rooms, a swimming pool that shimmered like a sapphire in the backyard, and a kitchen that was bigger than the entire one-room apartment Rose had shared with her daughter before this job found her. 3 months. That was how long she had been here. 3 months of early mornings, polished surfaces, freshly ironed shirts, and perfectly brewed morning tea. 3 months of tiptoeing around the truth. She wrung out her mop, stood up straight, and pushed a loose braid behind her ear. From somewhere down the corridor, behind the door of the small staff room Daniel had generously given her, she could hear the soft sound of cartoons playing at low volume. She allowed herself a small smile. Joy was awake. Rose moved quickly. She knocked twice on the door in their secret pattern, 2 short, 1 long, and slipped inside. Her daughter was sitting cross-legged on the bed, wrapped in a small blanket, her school uniform laid out neatly beside her. At 10 years old, Joy had her mother's bright eyes and her late father's stubborn chin. She was already reaching for her toothbrush. "Morning, Mummy," Joy whispered. "Morning, my love." Rose kissed her forehead. "Did you sleep well?" "Yes. But I heard a car last night." "Was it him?" "He came back late from a meeting." "You did well staying quiet." Rose helped Joy into her uniform and plaited her hair with fast, practiced hands. "Remember the rules." Joy recited them like a poem. "Don't come out until you knock. Don't make noise. Don't touch anything in the main house. Don't let Oga see me. Good girl." After Daniel's morning routine, Rose delivered his tea at exactly 7:15, Earl Grey, no sugar, with a slice of lemon on the saucer. He gathered his laptop bag, adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror, and dropped his keys into his jacket pocket. "Thank you, Rose," he said, the way he always did. Not dismissive, not careless. He actually looked at her when he said it. "You're welcome, sir. Have a good day." The moment his black Mercedes pulled out of the compound and the gateman closed the iron gate, Rose exhaled. She walked briskly to her room, knocked their pattern, and Joy burst out like a small storm, chattering about a dream she had involving a talking parrot and a plate of jollof rice. Rose laughed, really laughed, and pulled her daughter into her arms before rushing her through breakfast, double-checking her homework, and walking her to the bus stop at the edge of the estate. Every afternoon, she picked Joy up, and they walked back through the estate together, Joy talking endlessly about her day while Rose listened and watched the clock in her head. They had to be home before 5. Daniel never came back before 6, but Rose did not believe in cutting things close. This was their life. Small, secret, carefully balanced. Rose told herself it was fine. She told herself it could go on like this. She was wrong. It was a Thursday evening when everything shifted. Rose heard the car pull in at 5:30, earlier than usual, and then she heard laughter. A woman's laughter. High and deliberate, the kind that wanted to be noticed. Rose smoothed her apron and stood by the door as Daniel walked in, his hand resting on the lower back of a tall, light-skinned woman in a red bodycon dress and heels that clicked against the marble like a warning. "Welcome, sir." "Welcome, Ma." Rose stepped forward with a smile, reaching for Daniel's bag. Rose, how far? Daniel handed over his bag easily. How was your day? Fine, sir. Thank you, sir. The woman, Vanessa, said nothing. She looked at Rose the way someone looks at a piece of furniture they are considering replacing. Her eyes moved slowly from Rose's face to her apron to her worn flats and back up again. Then she looked away, already uninterested. Rose, please prepare something nice for us, Daniel said. Set the table. We'll have dinner here tonight. Yes, sir. Right away. In the kitchen, Rose moved efficiently. Peppered chicken, fried plantain, vegetable soup with pounded yam. She could hear music from the living room, then Daniel's low voice, then Vanessa's laughter again. She focused on her cooking. She did not hear Vanessa enter the kitchen. So you're the maid. Rose turned. Vanessa was leaning against the doorframe, arms folded, a thin smile on her face that did not reach her eyes. Yes, Ma. My name is Rose. I didn't ask your name. Vanessa stepped forward. I'm going to say this once, and I need you to hear me very well. I don't know what you think is happening here, but I see your type. Pretty face, working close to a rich man, acting all sweet and humble. Her voice dropped. Stay in your lane. Daniel is mine. If I ever catch you making eyes at my man or stepping out of your place, you will lose this job so fast your head will spin. Do you understand me? Rose's hands were trembling, but she kept her voice steady. I'm just here to do my work, Ma. Nothing more. Good. Vanessa looked around the kitchen once, as if inspecting it, then walked out. Rose stood still for a moment. Then she turned back to her pots, blinked hard, and kept cooking. Dinner was served. Daniel complimented the food genuinely, the way he always did. Rose, this soup is excellent. Thank you. Rose smiled. Thank you, sir. What happened next took only 3 seconds. Vanessa reached across the table, picked up her glass of water, and poured it directly over Rose's head. The sound Rose made was not a scream. It was a sharp, small gasp. Water dripped from her face onto the floor. The room was completely silent. Daniel stood up. Vanessa, what is the meaning of that? Vanessa's chair scraped back. I don't like how you talk to her. Her voice was shaking now, not with sadness but with something uglier. Every time. Thank you, Rose. The soup is excellent, Rose. She's your maid, Daniel. She's the help. She's a person, Daniel said, his voice cold and firm in a way Rose had never heard before. But Vanessa was already picking up her purse. Her heels clicked hard and fast across the marble, and the front door slammed behind her. Silence. Daniel turned to Rose. She was still standing in the same spot, water still dripping from her chin, her eyes cast down. Rose. His voice was different now. Softer. I am so sorry. That was completely unacceptable. Please, go and change. I'll clean this up myself. Rose nodded quickly and walked to her room. She waited until she had locked the door before she let herself cry. She sat on the edge of the bed, her wet blouse clinging to her skin, and pressed her hands over her mouth to muffle the sound. Then she felt 2 small arms wrap around her from behind. Mummy. Joy's voice was barely a whisper. Don't cry. God is watching everything. You always tell me that. Rose turned and pulled her daughter into her chest and held her so tightly that Joy squirmed a little but did not complain. Outside, Daniel's phone rang again and again in the living room. Vanessa was not picking up. The next morning, Rose gave Daniel his tea with steady hands. He apologized again, simply and sincerely, and she told him it was fine. He nodded and left for work. But Joy was not well. Rose noticed it the moment she opened the room door. Joy was still lying down, her forehead warm under Rose's palm, her eyes glassy and half-closed. My body is paining me, Mummy, Joy murmured. I know, baby. I'll get medicine. Just let me finish cleaning his room first, then we go. Rose couldn't leave Joy alone in the small room feeling so poorly. She carried her along, settling her in the armchair in the corner of Daniel's bedroom while she swept and mopped and dusted. But halfway through, Joy's head began to droop. Rose moved her gently to the edge of Daniel's large bed, planning to keep her there for just a moment. Joy was asleep within minutes. Rose finished cleaning, then walked around to Joy's side of the bed and knelt down. She placed her palm against her daughter's forehead, checking her temperature. Joy's breathing was slow and even, her face peaceful despite the fever. Rose closed her eyes briefly. Lord, please let my daughter be okay. She did not hear the front door open. She did not hear the footsteps on the stairs. The bedroom door swung open and Daniel Okafor walked in, loosening his tie, reaching for his file on the desk, and stopped dead. There was a child sleeping in his bed, and his maid was kneeling beside her with her eyes closed. What? His voice came out louder than he intended. What is going on here? Rose's eyes flew open. She scrambled to her feet. Sir, please. Daniel's eyes moved from Rose to the child and back to Rose. Who is this? Why is there a child in my house? In my room? In my... Sir, please. Rose's voice cracked. Tears were already running down her face. She is my daughter, sir. She is sick. I'm sorry, sir. She was not supposed to be here. She was not supposed to. I'm so sorry. I'm begging you. Please don't send us away. Daniel looked at the child again. Joy had stirred at the noise, her glassy eyes blinking open, confused and frightened. She looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at her. Even sick, even scared, there was something alert in that child's face. Something intelligent. He exhaled slowly. She's sick. Yes, sir. Since this morning. I was going to take her to get medicine after I finished your room. I'm sorry, sir. She slept off and I... Stop apologizing. He held up a hand. His voice had shifted from shock to something quieter. Get her shoes. We're going to the hospital. Rose blinked. Sir. Now, Rose. Get her shoes. The hospital waiting room smelled of antiseptic and air conditioning. Daniel sat in a plastic chair with his tie hanging loose, his file still tucked under his arm, the whole reason he had come back home in the first place. Rose sat beside him, her hands folded in her lap, watching the door behind which the doctor had taken Joy. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Daniel said, quietly, "Tell me everything." And Rose did. She told him about Joy's father, who had left before Joy was born and never returned. She told him about the years of struggling, of taking every cleaning job she could find, of sharing a single room in Mushin with Joy and her elderly aunt. She told him how she had found this job through a friend of a friend, how she had almost not taken it because of Joy, and how she had convinced herself that if she was careful enough, if she was quiet enough, she could make it work. "I should have told you from the start," she said, staring at her hands. "I was afraid you would say no, that you would not want a child in your house. I needed this job, sir. Joy needed me to keep this job." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "My mother was a cleaner," he said finally. Rose looked up. "She cleaned offices in Victoria Island for 15 years. Me and my two brothers, we grew up in a face me I face you in Adjagunal. One room. She used to wake up at 4 in the morning so she could cook for us before she left." He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I know what it costs a woman to do what you have been doing for that child." Rose pressed her lips together hard. "You should have told me, Rose. I would not have turned you away." He shook his head slowly. "No child should have to hide." When the doctor came out and said Joy would be fine, mild fever, some rest and medication, Rose exhaled a breath she felt she had been holding for 3 months. Things changed after the hospital, but not in the way Rose had feared. Joy got better within 2 days. And Daniel, as naturally as if he had always done it, folded her into the rhythm of the house. He registered her in Greenfields Academy on the island, a proper school with a library, a science lab, and a football field. He drove her there himself on the first morning, and Joy sat in the front seat of his Mercedes chattering about her old school's leaking roof while Daniel listened with quiet amusement. He picked her up in the afternoons when his schedule allowed. He began leaving little things on the kitchen counter: a mathematics workbook, a children's atlas, a puzzle box. Joy descended on all of them with ferocious curiosity. On Saturday mornings, they sat together in the living room, Daniel with his reading glasses on, Joy sprawled on the rug with her workbook, and he walked her through fractions and multiplication tables with the patient focus of a man who respected the sharpness he saw in her. Rose would sit in the chair across from them, pretending to fold laundry, watching her daughter laugh at Daniel's terrible jokes and argue with him over wrong answers. Her chest felt full in a way she had no name for. Then one Saturday, Vanessa walked in. She had a spare key. She had not called ahead. She stood in the doorway of the living room, taking in the scene, Joy cross-legged on the rug, Daniel leaning over her workbook, Rose in the corner, and something ugly moved across her face. "Daniel!" Her voice was dangerously calm. "You have a daughter." Daniel stood. "Vanessa, and this woman." She pointed at Rose. "This nobody is sitting in your living room like she belongs here." "I knew it. I told you. I told you from day one. Joy is my maid's daughter," Daniel said clearly. "She is 10 years old, she was sick, and I helped them. That is all. That is all." Vanessa laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Daniel, open your eyes. This woman has moved herself and her child into your house, and you are playing daddy and acting like there's nothing wrong with that picture. What's wrong with helping people?" His voice was even, firm, quiet. Vanessa looked at him for a long moment. Then she set her key on the side table by the door. "I'm done," she said. And she left. Daniel stood in the middle of his living room. Joy was looking up at him with wide, solemn eyes. Rose had gone completely still in her chair. He sat back down beside Joy. "Where were we?" "Long division," Joy said carefully. "Right." He picked up the pencil. "Let's go." Weeks passed. The house settled into a warmth it had not had before. Daniel enrolled Rose in an evening management program at a college not far from the estate. He drove her on the first day and waited outside to make sure she got in. Rose came out looking stunned, clutching her student ID, and he simply said, "You are more than a maid, Rose. You always were." She did not trust herself to speak on the drive home. He stopped calling her his maid. He introduced her to visitors as someone who helped run the house. He ate dinner with them in the evenings, the three of them around the large dining table that had once felt too big, and the conversation flowed easily, Joy talking the most, as always. Rose noticed everything. She noticed the way he always made sure her tea was warm before his. The way he remembered that Joy hated green pepper and instructed the supermarket delivery to leave it out. The way he looked up from his laptop sometimes when Rose walked through the room and did not immediately look back down. She told herself it meant nothing. She told herself she was a woman who had been shown basic human kindness and was simply overwhelmed by the novelty of it. She told herself many things. Then one Sunday afternoon, they were having lunch. Jollof rice, fried fish, cold zobo. Joy had been excused to go watch television. It was just the two of them at the table, and a quiet settled between them that was not awkward but full, the way silence is when it holds too many unspoken things. Daniel looked up from his plate and looked at her. Really looked at her. The way you look at someone when you have finally stopped pretending you are not looking. Rose met his eyes. He opened his mouth. Closed it. A rare thing, Daniel Okafor, unsure of his words. From the living room, Joy's laughter rang out at something on the television. Daniel glanced toward the sound, and when he looked back at Rose, there was something unguarded on his face. Something open and honest and a little afraid. "Rose," he said. "Sir," she answered softly, out of habit. The corner of his mouth lifted. "You've been calling me sir for almost 6 months." She looked down. "It's respectful. It's distance." He was quiet for a beat. I don't want distance. Rose looked up. Outside, the Lagos afternoon hummed. Generators, birdsong, the distant sound of the estate's children playing football in the street. Inside the house, a little girl laughed at a cartoon while the man who had changed both their lives sat across the table from her mother, holding her gaze with everything he could not yet say. Rose felt her heart make a decision her mouth had not yet been informed of. "Daniel," she said, for the first time, without the sir. He smiled, and it reached all the way to his eyes. Should Daniel ask Rose to be his and take joy as his own daughter? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hidden Hearts continues. And that's how a secret that could have destroyed everything ended up bringing 3 lives together. But now we want to hear from you. Do you think Daniel should truly accept Joy as his own daughter and start a new life with Rose? Or should they just remain friends? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves emotional stories like this. See you in the next story.